You have already imagined that part of the knowledge we have today about war, beauty, healing, and even the universe may have been given to humanity by beings who came from heaven, but not with God's permission. There is a forgotten story, buried between the lines of the old texts and hidden for centuries in the shadows of tradition. A story that tells about angels, not angels who bring peace or announce good news, but those who have come down to earth for desire, ambition, and rebellion. They were called vigilantes, and when they touched the human soil, they brought more than their presence. They brought secrets. These secrets were forbidden. They were mysteries reserved for heaven, revelations that should never have been placed in the hands of mortals. But they were. And the result? The accelerated corruption of humanity, a climb of violence, vanity, and magic that would culminate in one of the most severe punishments ever recorded in the scriptures, the flood. Behind the stories of the vigilantes, we find 6 teachings that have changed everything, distorted and delivered sacred knowledge before time, which still echo in the pillars of modern society. Have you ever wondered why war has become inseparable from human history? Or why do we seek to control the future through stars, science, and even spirituality? What if all this has started with angels who broke the divine order? Get ready to discover the 6 forbidden teachings of the fallen angels that corrupted humanity. You will know the name of Azazel and his deadly influence. You will understand how witchcraft has infiltrated the world, and will see how even vanity and body worship can have roots in a heavenly rebellion. The answer to many of our world's puzzles may be hidden in a forgotten verse, an ignored apocryphal text, or an ancient tradition that few dare to play. But today, we will dig these secrets, and nothing will be like before. To understand the impact of the forbidden teachings of the fallen angels, it is necessary to go back to the origins, at a time before the flood, when the earth did not know the great corruptions that would later spread throughout all civilizations. It is at this point that a mysterious group called vigilantes arises. The book of Genesis gives us a glimpse of this story. In Genesis chapter 6, verses 1 and 2, we read, "And it happened that, as men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and they were born daughters, they saw the children of God, that the daughters of men were beautiful, and they took women from all they chose." The expression children of God here has generated numerous debates. Many ancient scholars and traditions interpret these beings as angels, heavenly beings who, as they are enchanted by the beauty of human women, broke the limits established by God. This interpretation is reinforced by the book of Enoch, an apocryphal text that, although not present in the traditional biblical canon, was highly influential in the beliefs of ancient Judaism and the early Christians. According to Enoch, about 200 angels, led by a being called Semjaza, descended to Mount Hermon, taking a collective oath to join human women. These angels, called vigilantes, because of their function of observing the earth, not only related to women, but also transmitted to them and their children knowledge that belonged exclusively to heavenly rule. Among the most notorious names is Azazel, who taught men how to forge swords, knives, shields, and armor. His teaching would transform the way humans dealt with conflicts and blood. According to the book of Enoch, chapter 8, verse 1, "And Azazel taught men how to make swords, knives, shields, and breastplates, and showed them the metals and the art of working them." These teachings were not given with God's permission. They violated a sacred limit, breaking the order between heaven and earth. Therefore, according to the same book, God commanded the vigilantes to be imprisoned in the depths of the earth until the day of judgment. The children of these unions also draw attention. Called Nephilims, they were powerful and corrupted giants that terrorized men. They represent an illegitimate fusion between the heavenly and the terrene, the maximum symbol of corruption caused by the fallen angels. The biblical context shows us then that these angels, who should protect and observe, became the agents of decay. They crossed an invisible line, giving men revelations that not only pushed them away from God, but also aroused desires that they should never have been lit. Power, vanity, dominion, spiritual control, and immortality. This story temporarily ends with a divine act of purification. Genesis chapter 6 verse 5 tells us, "And the Lord saw that man's wickedness had multiplied upon the earth, and that all the imagination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continuously." It was then that God decided to send the flood, not only to judge humanity, but to purify the land of the corrupt influence of the vigilantes and the Nephilims. When the vigilantes descended to the earth, they did not only bring their heavenly presence. They brought knowledge, but a distorted, corrupted, forbidden knowledge. Each teaching transmitted to humanity carried with it the power to change the course of history, and each of them was marked by deep mysteries whose echoes still resonate to this day. Let's dive into these teachings and understand how they have become part of the fabric of our civilization. 1. The art of weapons and war. The first major teaching came from Azazel, who revealed to humans to forge weapons of war. Until then, humanity did not know the true power of destruction. According to the book of Enoch, Azazel not only taught how to create swords and armor, but also introduced men into the art of organized violence. This practice not only caused increased war between the tribes, but also formed the basis for an endless blood spill cycle. Why would Azazel do that? Some scholars believe that their goal was to create chaos and disorder on earth, driving humanity away from divine peace. 2. Witchcraft and invocation of spirits. The teaching of magic and witchcraft is one of the darkest. Some vigilantes have taught humans how to invoke spirits, how to use spells to control forces that should not be controlled. This opened portals to dark entities and spiritual forces that should never have been awakened. Enoch's words are clear. "And the angels taught men to make enchantments and the divination, and what was fair was corrupted." This teaching not only corrupted human hearts, but also began the practice of black magic, which persists to the present day in various cultures and religions. 3. Astrology and the power of the stars. Another secret revealed by the fallen angels was the knowledge about the stars and the heavens. They taught men the art of astrology, how to read the celestial movements, and thus try to control their destiny. But how did this corrupt humanity? When man tries to control fate, he forgets who he really owns the future, God. Many believe that the introduction of astrology has generated the belief that the future could be manipulated by human force, an idea of pride that opposes trust in God. 4. Cosmetics and visual seduction. One of the most fascinating and perhaps more controversial teachings concerns appearance and seduction. Fallen angels, especially Azazel, taught women to use cosmetics and adorn their bodies with dyeing and ornaments. This act of beautifying itself to seduce others was not just a superficial practice, but the beginning of a culture of vanity and selfishness. It is no coincidence that the incessant search for beauty, which consumes society to this day, has roots in this forbidden teaching. 5. Knowledge about the body and hidden medicine. The vigilantes also taught men secrets about the human body and the arts of medicine, but with a crucial difference. These practices were not intended to heal in a divine but manipulative way. Some believe that the introduction of medical knowledge was also linked to the desire for immortality. Instead of seeking cure for natural diseases, humans began to try to prolong life unnaturally. Interest in the mysteries of the human body. has grown, and in many cases this led to the use of practices that diverted from the true healing of God. 6. Heavenly secrets revealed before the time. Perhaps the most severe sin of vigilantes was to reveal heavenly secrets to men. Secrets that should never have been known. They taught about the creation, the heavens, and God's own dominion. This violation not only corrupted human nature, but also triggered divine wrath. Enoch's own book itself, as the vigilantes have been imprisoned, and awaits the final judgment for their crimes. In teaching these secrets, the fallen angels not only broke the divine order, but also created a generation of men and women who sought power over what they should never master. These forbidden teachings were not just a breach of spiritual rules. They created the foundations of many of the greatest mistakes and deviations of human history, which we still see in our incessant search for power, control, beauty, and knowledge. And the frightening of all, many of these teachings are still practiced and venerated in subtle and hidden ways to this day. Perhaps the most disturbing part of this story is not what happened in the past, but what continues to happen today. Because even if the vigilantes have been imprisoned and the flood swept their generation, the seeds planted by them continue to germinate. Silent, subtle, and dangerously effective. The true question that echoes us now is, do these teachings still influence humanity and even our own life? Let's look more closely. The war is not over. Azazel's teaching on the art of weapons may seem distant, old. But how many conflicts still exist by power, domain, and ego? Wars continue to be locked, not only with physical weapons, but with words, actions, intrigues. Today, violence manifests itself within homes, on social networks, in control disputes. The essence of what Azazel taught is still alive and perhaps more sophisticated than ever. The hidden seduction did not cease either. Witchcraft taught by vigilantes may seem likely to be fanciful, but think how many people today seek answers in the occult, letters, rituals, horoscopes, mediums, and cosmic energies. The craving for spiritual control, speaking to the beyond, still seduces and drives away. Modern man, like the old one, wants to touch the invisible, but ignores the danger of playing with forces he does not understand. Vanity has taken on new forms. The use of cosmetics, taught as a seduction tool, has become a multi-billionaire industry. Today there are those who live to please the eyes of others. Social networks have become appearance showcases, where the image is worth more than character. This is just modern makeup for an old poison, the search for approval and the elevation of the self above all. Spiritual arrogance spread. Astrology, taught as a way to predict the future, has made man believe he could control his own destiny. And to this day, many live like this. They ignore God's sovereignty and put their confidence in forces that are not divine. Isaiah chapter 47 verse 13 brings a hard alert. You have tired you with the multitude of your advice. Therefore now the prognisers of heaven are raised to save you. But they don't save, never saved, and they will never save. Knowledge without direction remains dangerous. The desire for control of body and life led man to seek immortality, to manipulate genes, to try to be like God. But this thirst for domain never quenches. Therefore, the Apostle Paul warns us in 1 Corinthians chapter 8, verse 1, knowledge swells, but love builds. It is not knowledge that saves, but love and obedience to God. And finally, the heavenly secrets still seduce. The man still seeks revelations that do not belong to him. It still insists on penetrating the mysteries that only God knows. And often in doing so, it moves away from what really matters: simple, alive, sincere faith. The question that remains is, in what areas of your life do these teachings still influence? Have you been guided by the peace of God or the weapons of vanity, control, and pride? Has your search for answers to the presence of the Lord or to dangerous shortcuts? Perhaps God allows certain puzzles in our lives to teach us to trust. Perhaps his silence, instead of being an absence, is an invitation to faith. Because unlike vigilantes, God does not deliver their secrets for vanity. He reveals his truth at the right time to the broken heart. And this truth is simple, powerful, and eternal. The Lord keeps those who fear him and reveals his secrets to those who love him. Psalm chapter 25, verse 14. Given all this, an amazing truth reveals itself. The forbidden teachings of the fallen angels were not trapped in the pages of the ancient writings. They crossed the centuries. They echo in culture, habits, choices of the modern world. They still corrupt, still seduce, and still remove the human being from his creator. The vigilantes did not just go down to teach techniques. They planted ideologies. They sow arrogance disguised as wisdom, beauty disguised as vanity, control disguised as spiritual power. Their sin was not only to disobey God, but also to open a portal of confusion about what is divine and what is profane. But even in the face of so much corruption, there is a thread of hope. The flood was not just a punishment, it was a purification, and likewise God continues to call us today to a renewal. He does not want us to be enslaved by what the fallen angels taught. He wants to restore our identity, clean our eyes, and reconnect us with the true source of wisdom, the Holy Spirit. Jesus said, "You will know the truth, and the truth will set you free." John chapter 8, verse 32. This truth is not in the stars, spells, appearance, or in search of control. It's on the cross. It is in obedience. It is in the brokenness. So before we end this video, I invite you to reflect. Are there any tracks of these forbidden teachings in any corner of your life? Have you been living a genuine faith, or influenced by ideas disguised as light but born of the rebellion? If this message has touched your heart, don't leave silent. Like this video, it shows YouTube that this content needs to reach more people who, like you, look for deep answers. Comment down here. I choose the wisdom from above, and share what has impacted you most in this story. Your experience can arouse other lives, and subscribe to the channel because our mission here is to reveal the truths that many avoid but release. We see each other there. May God bless you, and may the truth continue to guide you even among the shadows.